Maybe your parents for their retirement have bought 5, 10, 12 homes.
I'm sorry, what? Can we play that again? That was Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent. Let's watch.
Maybe your parents for their retirement have bought 5, 10, 12 homes.
I mean, maybe Maria Bartiromo's parents, but certainly not my parents. Certainly not the vast majority of Americans. But nonetheless, as you can tell, Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent opted for the trappings of an out-of-touch lunatic during his interview with Maria Bartiromo at the World Economic Forum. This is, of course, in Davos, Switzerland. So this is strange considering that he made the remark during his long explanation for why institutional investors like private equity firms should not be allowed to buy single family residential real estate, which, by the way, I agree with that. I always have to add the caveat that that is not the end all be all. That is not going to be the thing that fixes our very real housing crisis. Our housing crisis has to do with the fact that we have a shortage of homes, meaning we need to rethink zoning and we need to build more housing. That is the most important thing. But allowing private equity to buy up residential real estate in the middle of a housing crisis is insane. And so the Trump administration is alleging that they want to do something about it. So yesterday, President Trump signed an executive order banning institutional investors from buying residential real estate, which is likely unconstitutional and will be overturned by the courts. That's my prediction. You can't do everything through executive order. It's going to be challenged. It'll go to the courts. It'll be overturned. You need Congress to pass legislation. Although I will say something, there are some tools that the administration has that they're planning to use. And I'm curious to see how that plays out. So stick around for the details on that. Now, here's Bessent on why he believes institutional investors should be banned, at least for now, from purchasing residential real estate.
For those of you who are not American, in the US, pre-Great Financial Crisis, institutional investors did not participate in the single family market. So post the financial crisis, institutional investors hoovered up single family homes. They continue to do it. And there's an unfair tax arbitrage there. You and I have a mortgage. We can deduct the mortgage amount. Institutional investors can deduct the borrowing amount, but they can also expense any repairs and depreciation. So we think that it is a good idea to have them out of the market. We are going to give guidance at some point to see what is a mom and pop that someone, maybe your parents for their retirement have bought 5, 10, 12 homes. So we don't want to push the mom and pops out. We just want to push everyone else out.
Look, I know I'm harping on it, but Scott, you need to talk to normal people. Maybe the circles you run around in, people in their retirement have purchased 10 homes. I would be shocked if there's a sizable portion of ordinary Americans buying up 5, 10, 15 homes in retirement. But okay, that's just the one gripe I have. I largely agree with the idea that these, institutional investors should not be buying residential real estate, at least right now, and probably in the future too. And the reason why I say that is because, again, the biggest issue right now is the fact that we don't have enough homes. Okay. So when you don't have enough homes, it doesn't make sense to allow foreign investors or private equity firms to buy up whatever homes we have. Now, I'm going to skip ahead a little here because in 22 specific US countries, institutional investors own between 5% and 10% of the housing stock. That is a lot of housing, again, in the middle of a shortage of housing. Okay, so let's talk about Trump's executive order a little bit, because what does it actually do? In theory, here's what would happen, at least in the way that the Trump administration is selling it to us. So in 30 days, Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent will give the administration his official definitions of both large institutional investors and single family homes, right? Like let's make sure that we are defining exactly what we're going after here. Other cabinet members are supposed to weigh in on this. And then Attorney General Pam Bondi and the Federal Trade Commission Chair, Andrew Ferguson, will look into the holdings of large institutional investors. And they're alleging that if needed, they'll use antitrust laws to bust those investors' coordinated vacancy and pricing strategies. I mean, first of all, let me just get this out of the way. I don't believe them. I don't think that they're actually going to do this. Okay, but if they prove me wrong, I will be the first to come on this show and say, you know what? I predicted incorrectly. It turns out that they were serious about this and they're actually doing it. I doubt that's going to happen, but I would be elated if they prove me wrong. Second thing I'll say is this is an interesting tactic, and I'm curious to see if they do try it, whether or not it works. However, the most important thing here, if you want policy that sticks, is law, is legislation. And Trump has instructed Congress to codify this ban into law, which of course they're not going to do because they're corrupt and useless. Congress is useless. I can't think of a single body within our government that's more useless than Congress. Can you tell I really don't like Congress? Okay. So according to the lever, Trump's executive order does not apply to properties that are built to rent. And honestly, I'm okay with that. Okay, so at least one corporation is ready to take advantage here. So there's Invitation Homes. We've talked about them on the show before. And they own roughly 86,000 residential homes in the US. They spent $89 million to acquire ResiBuilt, which develops homes designed for lease. I don't see a problem with that, right? Like they are spending money to build homes that they plan to rent. Okay. That increases the stock of rental units. So that's good in some way, even though these guys do a terrible job maintaining the properties and actually responding to their tenants' concerns or calls to repair things. And I think that we should bolster laws to ensure that these institutional landlords aren't essentially serving as, what is the word for it? Basically abusing these tenants and neglecting them, right? Like there should be stronger laws to prevent that from happening. But the bigger picture here is they are spending money to build rental units. Okay. My biggest issue with private equity firms is we have a housing shortage and they are buying the limited inventory of residential homes. That's a huge problem. According to Resi Club in 2021, Invitation Homes began building or buying built to rent homes. Last quarter, 81% of their acquisitions came from built to rent homes. So that's what we're dealing with when it comes to this issue of private equity firms buying residential real estate. I want to follow this story closely and see if anything comes out of it. I'm worried that we're all just going to forget about it and Trump will get his cookies. He'll get his plaudits for allegedly preventing private equity from buying up residential real estate, but he has to actually do it. Simply signing the executive order doesn't mean anything. So we'll wait and see.
Every time you ring the bell below, an angel gets his wings. Totally not true, but it does keep you updated on our live shows.